So thank you everybody for joining today. My name is Zach Wagman and I am Project Learning Tree Canada's Senior Green Jobs Manager. And we'd like to thank you for joining us here today. During today's employer learning session, we'll be exploring how to create a safe, supportive, and empowering green job space for Indigenous youth. We have Brittany McCoy, who is the West Program Manager for the Outland Youth Employment Program. I understand that Mark Camille is not with us today, but we do have Chianti presenting alongside Brittany. So Brittany is the West Program Manager for the Outland Youth Employment Program in Alberta and British Columbia. Brittany maintains industry and community partnerships and continues outreach and recruitment throughout the year. So over to you, Brittany and Chianti, and I'll stop sharing so that you can put your presentation up on the screen.
Thank you. If you just give me 1 second here. All right, is everybody able to see my screen here?
Oh, there we go.
Yep, we can see it.
All right, perfect. Thank you again for having us. We're so excited to speak about it, engaging Indigenous youth and how we can support them in the workforce. Just like Zach had mentioned, if everyone can just mute their microphones, that would be great. We will be checking questions throughout the program. So if you guys do have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and we will try and answer them as we go along, but then we'll also have that Q&A question at the end of the presentation. So we'll be going through a quick intro on who we are and what the Outland Youth Employment Program offers. And then we will be diving into our 5 recommendations for engaging Indigenous youth.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick introduction to our team. So my name is Chianti Brown. I'm the education lead with the Outland Youth Employment Program. Sarah Ambrosiak is our national program manager who is currently on maternity leave. Mark Camille really wanted to be here today, but unfortunately something came up really last minute, but he is our Eastern program manager. So he manages our camps in Manitoba and Ontario. And then Brittany McCoy, who you guys have all met, is our Western program manager operating out of Alberta and British Columbia.
So what is OYEP? The Outland Youth Employment Program is a national network of education, training, and work opportunities for Indigenous youth. That includes our award-winning 6-week land-based summer program. OYEP wraparound services are available across Canada, and summer-based programs are currently available in Ontario, Manitoba, Alberta, and British Columbia. OYEP has worked towards equity and opportunity for Indigenous youth and communities since 2000. So we just have a short video here that I think really showcases the youth perspective. So I'm just going to go and share that here.
Being at the camp definitely taught me how to make new friends. Go from complete strangers to talking every day, going to them about our problems. Definitely got me out of my comfort zone. Never thought I'd be outgoing in front of a bunch of strangers, but here I am.
Look at this. It's beautiful out here. What do I miss the most? Just pretty much all the good people around here.
OYEP has taught me to be more independent and that there's a lot of opportunities out there for me to learn and experience. And what I experienced was tree planting is hard, but it's really fun and I really enjoy it.
How do you like tree planting so far?
It's going great.
Great!
Great!
Life is great!
Yeah. I'm out in the nature and I get to plant things and planting trees and giving back to the earth, which is the best thing I have ever done in my entire life.
The hardest part would be being away from family, but I got you guys and you guys are like my family. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Alrighty, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please feel free to check out any of our social media as well, as we have lots of good stuff up there. To give you some of our outcomes in the last over 20 years, so established in 2000, we've made many, many milestones since then. In over 20 years of operation, we've now awarded 827 high school co-op credits. 610 Indigenous youth have graduated OYEP, representing 110 different Indigenous communities. There's a 96% high school graduation rate, which is provided by the Canadian Council of Aboriginal Business, and over 1,000 jobs placements nationally. And we also have 0 instances and accidents in a substance-free, holistic, and predictable camp environment.
So OYEP has 6 camps nationally. So right now we have 3 camps in Ontario. So we have Esker Lake that's near Kirkland Lake. We have Mink Lake near Atikokan, and we have Sandbar near Ignis. And then our Manitoba camp is near Egg Lake, and our Alberta camp is near Lubicon Lake, and our BC camp is near Prince George. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we are unable to expand as intended, but we are hopeful for additional projects in the future.
Okay, so at OYEP, participants receive 6 weeks of on-the-job training, education, and work experience. Each week at OYEP has a specific theme. The first week covers all safety-related training. The second week has a forestry focus, learning about different careers within the industry. During the third week, youth will participate in Science Week, led by the local college and/or university. The fourth week is tailored towards energy and sustainability with the support of industry partners. Mining will be explored during the fifth week, exploring geology, prospecting, and land reclamation. Last but not least, youth will receive a whole week of fieldwork training, including tree planting, brush cutting, and more.
So OYEP works year-round to connect youth with various work employments post-high school graduation. OYEP is fortunate to work with many industry partners within the natural resource, mining, industry, and forestry sector, offering mutually beneficial relationships between OYEP youth and OYEP partners. Industry partners can feel confident when they hire OYEP youth that they've been trained with the basic workplace certification and skills.
Okay, so like Brittany said, the collective efforts of program partners and the OYEP team has led to meaningful outcomes for both program participants and stakeholders. So if you're interested in learning more about the different partnership opportunities, or you just want to learn more in general, feel free to send OYEP a message.
So now we will be going through the 5 different aspects that we think are beneficial for engaging Indigenous youth. The areas are company mission statement, thorough expectation and communication, understanding and awareness, flexibility and adaptability, and then attitude. These are points that we've highlighted as advantageous, but we understand that supporting youth is a continuously evolving adventure, and so this can always change and adapt. So clarifying your own mission statement. As a company, I think it's beneficial to unpack your mission statement when you're committing to supporting Indigenous youth in the workforce. What does that mean to your company? What are you willing to do, and how are you able to support Indigenous youth within your organization to be successful? Oftentimes we see statements such as, we're committed to a certain percentage of First Nation employees, but what does that actually entail on your end? Will you be offering additional support, or are you just looking for someone to fill a position? We think that taking the time to unpack your mission statement will help you and your organization move forward in supporting Indigenous youth within a professional manner. If it's just to check a box, maybe consider reevaluating.
Okay, so the second recommendation we've made is to thoroughly outline expectations. So this is something that begins at the interview process and should be referred back to throughout the employment duration. You want to create boundaries between yourself being the employer and the Indigenous youth being the employee. Outline the type of things that they can come to you about, but also make note of what is inappropriate behavior as well. Communication really is key, so try to keep it a little less formal, but at the same time, you want to clearly lay out the expectations of the position. It's important to recognize that due to the number of barriers that Indigenous youth face, which we'll be talking about in the next slide, this could likely be their first job. So we want to make the first interview as personal and welcoming as possible. Along with this, we also want to recognize the different barriers to communication. So these youth may be living in remote locations with little cell or internet service. When communicating, create an open line of communication and communicate with relevancy. And last but not least, get to know the person, not just the employee. So every year that I work with the Outland Youth Employment Program, I can confidently say that I learn just as much from the youth as I teach them. So definitely take that opportunity.
So the next point is understanding and awareness. Like Chianti said, take the time to get to know your employees. What are their interests? What are their values, their strengths, and their abilities? Establish a professional relationship and get a better understanding of where your employee is coming from. With this too, you can take the time to recognize barriers to employment and educate yourself on systematic barriers to employment and retention. Indigenous youth face a higher number of barriers when entering the workforce. Some of those barriers can be racism, geographical location, experience, health, education barriers, among many, many more. And being aware of these hurdles that youth are facing will better equip you to support them. Once you've recognized these barriers, you can focus on how to address them and address how to accommodate them. Creating a zero tolerance environment for racism, possibly offering free transportation to and from work, thorough training, continued support and accommodation, and then also understanding that some resumes may be thin comparatively to others. A couple of possible accommodations could be a flexible pay schedule, help supporting obtain identification and supporting documents. I know personally with OYEP, we struggle every single year to make sure that the youth have the proper identification, and a flexible work schedule, and then additional training. Also, another great way is to become an ally. Ask Indigenous youth how it is best to support them. Your idea of what youth may need, it might not be what they actually need. Learn from the youth and from their culture. Like Chianti said, you can learn just as much from them as they can learn from you. And then educate yourself and others. Remember that cultural education never stops and is always evolving.
Awesome. And also be prepared to offer second, third, sometimes even fourth and fifth chances. So acquiring a second chance provides people with dignity and allows them to achieve their potential as contributing members to the community. This allows individuals to gain closure after their time is served and provides them with the ability and support necessary to avoid future criminal behavior.
And so flexibility and adaptability. When we're working with youth in general, not specifically Indigenous youth, you want to plan as much as possible and have that plan be flexible. So try and account for outside barriers as well. Energy levels, mood, family, personal emergencies. Remember, you're working with teenagers. I can tell you personally, 15-year-old Brittany was not the easiest person to work for or the greatest employee. If you take the time to set out goals with your youth, create SMART goals and recognize that person's individual goals may be different. Then you can try and work to find common ground and support those individual goals. When you're making those individual goals, you can also find different learning styles. So if you identify the different learning styles and promote success by capitalizing on these different styles. And remember, every person is different, and you can also, with youth as well, you can get different attitudes and personalities based on the day.
Yeah, and last but not least, have a great attitude. So Indigenous students, they look up to you a lot more than you'll ever know. To them, you're the cool guy. So as a manager, you want to lead by example. Remembering that this might be someone's first interaction in a professional environment and they may be very nervous. Over time, these nerves will wear off, but keep in mind that confrontation can be very detrimental for those with little experience and those who are just starting off. Instead, keep the mindset that mistakes are opportunities. So mistakes are not downfalls. Everyone makes mistakes day to day, and that's okay. It's how we look at them so that we can do better next time and learn from those mistakes.
All right, so we're gonna do a little activity. So if everybody could get a piece of paper and a pen, and then draw your ideal camping setup. We'll give everyone about 2 minutes to do that. All right, and then if everybody could share theirs, please, no judgment on the drawing skills. Mine doesn't quite pop up, sorry. But as you can see, everybody's drawing is a little bit different. So people's personal experiences shape how they see the world. So like we said, getting to know individuals and who they are and what has shaped them into who they are will be able to help you understand what perspective that they're coming from. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. That's all that we have on our end. Was there anyone that had any questions for myself or Chianti?
Thanks, Brittany and Chianti. So again, if you do have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself, or if you'd like to type your questions in the chat, that's also another way that you can do that. But I guess in the interim, one question that I have for both of you is, what has been the biggest takeaway of being involved with the Outland Youth Employment Program?
I'll go first there. I can just say that always coming into every single opportunity with an open mindset, especially with Indigenous youth, I would say you don't know kind of the past that they're coming from, or what troubles they might be coming to the workforce with. And so every time that I've had somebody, I was like, oh, we're not getting the best out of them. Once we've taken the time to really understand the issue, you understand that there's a lot more stuff going on in the back, and that you can work forward and together, and that every single person is different and every single year is different. Every single project that I've been a part of, like every year I'd be like, oh my God, I felt like I was unprepared. But it's just every single year is different. Every youth is different. Every area is different. And I would say, like, celebrating the little successes, like it's something that you're going to be like, oh, we didn't quite get the end result that we wanted to, but that's okay. Yeah, really celebrate the little successes, what I would say.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Brittany for sure as well. The other thing too, kind of going along the same lines, like we all came from production-based tree planting, industrial tree planting operations, and that's a very different mindset. So when you come from something like that into OYEP, it's a big learning curve, because you almost have to slow things down. You have to be really, really flexible and be okay with being flexible and going with plan B or C or D and being okay with that, and just, yes, celebrating the little wins for sure, because you're not going to change. We're just 3-4 people. We're not going to change the systematic issues that have been going on since colonization, but we can hopefully make a difference in an individual's life.
Perfect. Thank you both for that. I see we have a question coming in the chat here. Jess wrote, I wonder if you have any recommendations for questions you might ask or the process you might take. This is for an interview.
Yeah, I would say for interviews, I would say trying to make it as comfortable as possible. By that, I would say maybe start off by asking a few questions that aren't specific to the job, or even if, like, making it so the first one is just having like a quick chat, or going on Facebook and having a chat with them through that way, so that you make it comfortable, so it's not formal at first. You, like, just remembering that you are dealing with teenagers, and this might be the first time that they're having a professional sit down and interview like that. So taking the time, that it might take 2 or 3 tries to get to that level of questioning and interview process. So I would say, for me personally, I would do 2 or 3 and then seeing what they're comfortable with. If they're a little bit more comfortable over the phone versus like a phone face-to-face, like Zoom chat, do it that way, because you want to make sure that you're getting the most out of the interview, and that they're focused on what they're actually saying versus how uncomfortable they are.
Excellent. Thank you. We've got another question in the chat from Dominic. So I'm wondering how to make sharing potential job opportunities more accessible. Often we primarily share opportunities online on platforms like Indeed or co-op boards. Are there other ways to share this information that you believe could increase accessibility?
I would say, like, I know Mark was like, I don't want to give up our secret tool. Facebook is our #1 communication platform with the youth and Indigenous youth, and that's also with the communities as well. So I would say if you have a targeted community that you are looking at recruiting from, get in touch with their band office and see if they have a Facebook page, what works best for them. In the past, like, emails are not the best, and neither is Indeed. There's not that many youth that are checking this. We can make a little plug for OYEP, but we do have a board that is specifically for OYEP employment opportunities that we try and connect our youth with. But again, that is all over Facebook. But I would say also just touching base with the band office and seeing how they get their information out. Sometimes there's like monthly newsletters, but more often than not, it's Facebook. Facebook is the best way to get involved.
Also, I find we're trying to connect a lot of the OYEP grads to different work opportunities throughout the year, and they won't always necessarily come to you for help and seek you out. But I do a lot of messaging on Facebook being like, hey, like this just came up with Resolute. Are you interested in this? And they're like, yeah, that'd be awesome. So talking to them and seeking out whether or not they're interested. Also that relationship piece. So whether it's with the youth or the communities or the bands that you're working with, developing a strong working relationship where they know that you have their best interests at heart, I think is really, really important, and would be very successful for yourselves as well.
I think too, as well, as just to add on to that, is that it's creating relationships within the communities prior to wanting to have employment, is so you have somebody that you can talk to, that you have a relationship. The thing as well with Indigenous workforce and a youth Indigenous workforce is that there will be so many industry professionals that are going to them before, like, so there is quite a few people that will be touching base with them for employment. And so trying to create a relationship that's not like you beforehand, so you're not getting something out of it, but like you're not asking them for something. It's just creating a relationship, like a great relationship with them prior to asking something from the community.
Perfect. Thanks. These are really great questions. And if anyone does want to unmute themselves to ask them, do feel free to do so. I've got one. So SFI has been a longstanding partner of OYEP, and we've been really proud to help support the growth of your programs. So, and part of that being Project Learning Tree Canada providing financial support for the youth employment. How, if there are other employers on the line who want to get more involved with Outland and the OYEP program, how would they go about that?
So really, you just have to message Mark or Brittany, even myself, even Sarah. We will direct it to the right person, depending on that location. And we are very flexible in the different types of partnerships that we can have. So we've had financial contributions, and then we've had people come in and do presentations or do a day of field work training. With the Trans-Canada Trail last summer and this summer and so on, we've been doing trail building with them, so that there's different opportunities based on your services that you provide and how it fits within our program.
And Kathy, I know you've been quite a strong proponent of the OYEP program and specifically our involvement in supporting them, and I'm wondering if you want to add in anything here.
Sure, thanks very much. In fact, yeah, I know OYEP had 2 camps when Dave Bradley came to speak at our conference, and certainly we put a strong pitch into SFI certified organizations to collaborate with OYEP to grow the number of camps. And I guess that is one of the points today. I think Brittany mentioned we're at 8 camps now, and many of those camps are supported financially by SFI certified organizations as well. And to Brittany's point about building a relationship, one way you can build a relationship with these communities is actually supporting the establishment of these OYEP camps, being able to, through that establishment, participate in the programming, and then get to know sort of the different opportunities and youth in that community are coming through. And by establishing a camp in an operating area near you. And this was what was very attractive for us with OYEP, is we know many of our SFI certified organizations and partners are looking to focus on youth in an area near them, because many of them will want to stay close to home and close to their community and in their Indigenous communities. And so I think that's just a good opportunity to know that others have gone before you if you wanted to support these camps. And we're also happy to facilitate that in any way. And certainly during COVID times, as Brittany mentioned, the camps weren't available, but Project Learning Tree Canada did also help develop the online programming and brought guest speakers from our community to the youth to sort of do training in an online version as way. But we're a big fan of the program because of what's been said. This is often the first opportunity to build a network, to learn skills, to learn about what employment looks like, to understand trees and forests and planting and getting WHMIS training or getting your driver's license and all of these basics. And I know that when I participated in the joint signing, I was so thrilled to hear one of the youth say to me, you know, I never knew what I was going to do, but after participating in this camp, I'm going to become a forestry technician at Confederation College, for example. And so these camps can make a real difference in their career opportunities and in the choices that they make for the career pathways. So yeah, I've just always been a fan and encourage the SFI community and our broader network to support these camps that can make a huge difference. So thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. I'm not seeing if there's any other questions coming through here, but I'm just wondering, where have you seen the OYEP graduates go from the program? So what has been that progression like after they've gone through the program and gone on to other things?
We've seen quite a variety of different areas. Like, I think Catherine is great. She's gone on to work with you guys. We had quite a few people in the MNR. That's Edwin. He's worked with fire suppression. We have, I would say, probably about 30 to 40% of the grads do go on to post-secondary education, which is great, and it's like well above the national standard. I would say a lot of forestry. We have a lot of people that do go into the tree planting. We've had a couple of people, quite a few people go into the mining, even working within the Outland camps. We've seen it. We do, yeah, you do see a whole different variety of pathways that people do end up taking. I would say quite a few, the industry connections that we do help facilitate is that there are quite a few graduates that do take that route. And so with the camps as well, is that each camp has kind of this set 6 weeks, but it will be a little bit different from Alberta versus BC and that versus Ontario. So it is industry specific for the area. So we are introducing the youth to industry within their area.
Excellent. I'm not seeing any other questions coming through here, but we'll give it a few more minutes. One thing you spoke to at the beginning of your presentation was around diversity statements and mission statements and really unpacking them. I'm wondering if an organization doesn't have one yet, how would they best go about crafting that? And what do they need to consider when they're putting that together?
I would probably say just sitting down and seeing what your goal is, and then unpacking it from there. Like I said, if it's like we want to hire Indigenous youth. That's great. It's a great step. But what does that mean? If you're just looking to, it's not just hiring Indigenous youth. It's how are we going to support it? What training are we going to offer? Are we going to approach it as we would every other employee? Are we going to be offering second and third chances? Are we going to be offering additional support? Because I think once you start unpacking that, it's not just hiring someone, it's how you can support them to be successful. Because if you hire somebody and they're only there for 2 weeks, you're not helping making somebody successful, and you're not teaching them a good route and how they can be successful professionally. You're showing them that like failure, there's nothing comes from it. There's nothing comes from being successful. Whereas if you can turn that, maybe it didn't work out, but you can turn it into a learning opportunity. And so like I said, our program adapts every single year. It changes every single year. And so we're learning from the youth every single year. And so I think it's really just sitting down and seeing what your core values are and where you can improve, and just really understanding what that means to you.
Perfect. Thank you. And that's something we found too with working with our program with youth right across the country, is that adaptability and flexibility are definitely key concepts. I'm recognizing we are coming up to the end of our learning session here. Sarah, I see you just put a question there. Maybe we have a minute to answer it. What are some examples of additional support for Indigenous youth employees that tend to provide the best results?
I would say for us, I would say, and maybe Chianti can chime in on this as well, is that continued relationship. We are talking to youth all year long, and a lot of my time is seeing how people are doing. So it's not just professionally how they're doing. I'll check in and seeing how their family is doing. If anything comes up this way, if like it is a lot on social media, and seeing if there is posts that are a little bit alarming, and just checking in and seeing how they're doing. So they're comfortable all the time coming to us with anything. And then once you're in the OYEP family, it's not like you do the 6-week program and you're done. It is something where it is a very continued relationship. And so I would just say approaching it a little bit differently and a little bit more of a relationship than just a professional employment, I would say it would be. And then training is, as well as like Chianti said, with the communication, with our access to internet, to job banks, it might not be the same. So you might be seeing opportunities that the youth might not see. And so it's realizing that and making that accessible to Indigenous youth would be a good support. I'm not sure, Chianti, if you have any.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, that's really good, Brittany, in terms of actual items to support people with, I mean, definitely that relationship piece, building a relationship with the communities. And then what we love to do, obviously, it's not our place to be teaching Indigenous knowledge and traditional ecological knowledge. That is not our job. So what we love to do is we love to bring in community people, leaders, elders into the camps, or we go into the communities as long as it's safe with COVID, but getting that involvement piece. And then when they have support from not only the organization and the management team working with them, they also know that they have support from their families. They have some more support from the community, because we work so closely with the community. Other additional supports, it can be supports for everyone, or it could be we've seen, I've seen youth who go on to pursue post-secondary education. I've seen youth who can't really read a full sentence for their co-op books in a grade 11 or 12. And that just has to do with a lot of other barriers and systematic issues, but making those adaptations to the individual and their individual needs, kind of like an individual learning plan for them. So for example, if the youth who he could speak properly, but he couldn't read or write, I would have him orally tell me what he is thinking, just in a conversation, and then I would write it down for him. And that was a really big support for him, where he probably wouldn't have touched it had I not done that. So it can be individualized, and it could be, there's so many different things that you could do, like the offering wage subsidy. So for example, buying PPE for them, and stuff like that, because we have to accommodate for that, for sure.
Perfect, thank you. We are coming up to the end of our learning session here. I'd like to thank Brittany and Chianti so much for joining us here today for that excellent presentation. I did mention earlier that SFI and Project Learning Tree Canada have been long-standing supporters of the OYEP program, and we're really excited to see where this partnership goes in the future.
Growing future forest and conservation leaders.